Welcome to the Real World Audio channel. If this is your first time, and I'm using the picture for sheet Azure, because if you are looking for this amplifier or another similar amp, then this is information that you really want to hear about. You're probably very curious about it, but probably you had no ways of finding out because of the specific searches you are doing are not getting you the real technical answer. So my channel is about going into the physics of sound. So I'm going deeper than just measurements alone. I'm going into equipment topologies. So what are those parts of the electronic circuit that are responsible for certain features? And this is one video like that. And today I'm going into what is it that defines the sonic character of an audio amplifier? So what is it that, how can you get that typical tube sound, or how can you get that stereotypical solid state sound? So what is it that really is responsible for the character? Because if you have heard already several audio gear, then you know that some tube amps sound as if they were solid state, and there are some solid state amps that sound like a tube amp. So what on earth is going on? So I'm going to give you the explanation for that. So basically, the character of an amplifier, how it sounds, is not defined by it using tubes or solid state electronics, but it's defined by the topology of its circuit. So there are two extremes to topologies. At one side, one extreme would be a push-pull topology run where the elements are, the gain stages are run in class B. And this topology uses high negative feedback. And if you use this, then you get that stereotypical solid state sound. And it doesn't matter whether you use transistors to get it, and or you use vacuum tubes, triodes, or pentodes, whatnots, or heptodes. You will get that stereotypical solid state sound, because that sound is not the character is not the result of the transistors. The character is the result of the topology and the method used to generate the sound and deal with the problems in the circuit. At the other end of the spectrum, of the sonic spectrum, which is the stereotypical tube sound, which you would classify as like a natural warm sound, and the topology to reach that is a single-ended topology run in class A and not using any feedback. So this will give you that stereotypical tube sound. This is the only generic advice I think that can be given for sonic character. Everything in between, or going for class D and whatnot, that is a very, I would say, that zone covers all sorts of things, and I cannot give any generalizations for those solutions. It really depends on how it is executed, and that will have a result on its sonic character. But these are those two extremes which, if followed, it doesn't matter whether you use tubes or whether you use transistors to get that sound. You will get either a stereotypical tube sound or a stereotypical solid state sound. Now, how about these characters being good or bad? Because there's a lot of people who think that, I don't like that warm tubey sound because it's so syrupy, so mellow, I just, and cloying and clogging. I just can't listen to that mushy junk. And on the other hand, the same can be had for the push-pull class B high negative feedback, stereotypical solid state sound. It can cover an extreme depend that goes from the worst examples to the best examples, and basically the progression from the abyss to heaven depends on the parts quality. So if you are wondering about buying an amplifier and how it will sound, then today these are my 2 tips for you. The topology will tell you about the character of that amp, how it will sound, and the parts quality and execution of that topology will tell you whether it will be at the bottom at the dregs for that sonic character or whether it will rise to very high levels. And I can tell you that no matter whether you like that stereotypical solid state sound or stereotypical push tube sound, if they are done at an abysmal level, you won't be happy with either of them. And if it's done at a very high level, even if, let's say, you are that stereotypical tube sound lover, if that solid state sound signature is done to a very high level, you will, I would say, almost certainly love the sound. And also the same goes for solid state lovers. If that tube topology is done to the highest level, you will be simply stunned at what you are hearing. So I think this is not a clashing of circuits, not a debate like which is better. There's no such thing as better. It's just giving you a different mirror in which you can reflect upon the music you hear. And the mirror of that of push-pull class B high negative feedback topology, that mirror, when it's broken, then it will sound boring, it will sound dead, it will sound sterile, clinical, mechanical. But when it's getting better, it presents you a clear mirror, then you will get what people describe as a studio sound in a good way, or objective sound, where you can hear like every detail, every aspect that is presented to you. Or some people refer to it as the mic feed. So basically like getting the most accurate rendering of the recording you have, and hearing something that the studio engineer has heard in his recording room. We can argue whether it's good or bad, that's a very different question. But when you pursue push-pull class B high feedback topology, then you have the potential to reach that. Now let's have a look. When you pursue the other topology, which is single-ended class A zero feedback, whether solid state, whether vacuum tubes, if it's done poorly, executed poorly, then you'll get a syrupy colored sound, and the sound will be subjective. For some people it's very offensive that it dares to provide an interpretation of the sound for you, and for others it's an absolute requirement, because everything in the world is subjective. There's no such thing as objectivity, because even the person who is reviewing something is reviewing it based on the criteria, and those criteria already make it subjective. Yes, the person will be objective via or biased or against those criteria, but the criteria already make it a subjective review, a subjective opinion. So I just, if you are a scientist like me, I am a research scientist, I just want to, guys, let you know that the most important part in science is the research methodology. And to make any kind of judgments or conclusions, you have to be absolutely clear of the methodology you employ or the methodology you are looking at. And if you are not clear with the big picture, then you will be running around and around in circles. So getting back here to the single-ended topologies, if you have a clear mirror presented by your single-ended amp, then you will have a natural presentation that will remind you much more of a live performance rather than a studio recording. So what you hear at a live event as opposed to what you would hear in a mixing room. And it will be at its highest level a soulful experience that touches your soul. And this is something that a lot of people want to ascribe to the soulful experience, that it's soulful and it's touchy because it's syrupy, because it's so mushed up, it's so mixed, and that just puts you into a romantic haze. I call major BS on this ideology and on this sentiment, because when a single-ended topology is carried out at its highest level, then the soulful experience comes from clarity. It doesn't come from mush, it doesn't come from the mud, it doesn't come from the quagmire or outright problems. It comes from the direct connection that the gear is giving between you and the musician, the live flesh and blood, full of soul person who created the music for you. So basically at its peak you are getting the human touch, and you will never ever think about the equipment that's playing the music for you. The only thing in the universe of the highest execution level will be the music itself. And when you go the other road, then the highest form of execution will give you the machine, will give you the stereo system. So when you have an ultimately executed stereotypical solid state sound, then your attention will be 100% on the brilliance of the audio gear. Yes, you will be still able to enjoy the music, be glad about it, but when the experience is over, the only thought in your mind will be, how can I get an audio system like that, and how on earth I will be making enough money to cover that. And when you have an experience with the other school of amplifier building, which is like the highest level of the stereotypical tube sound, then after experiencing the highest level of that, the only thing you will be able to think is the music you heard. And it will be probably a very long time until you start thinking about the audio gear. And the main thing that you will desire after hearing that is not primarily to own an audio system like that, but to hear that music that you just heard again and again. And I can tell you, after that experience, when you hear a song by that system, even if you listen to the same song on your cell phone, you will have goosebumps. You will have almost, I would say, dare to say, like a near orgasmic experience just listening to that song from your cell phone. And anywhere, when even just thinking about the experience will trigger that hormonal release in your brain that happened during the time you listen to that stereo. And the soulfulness, the human connection of a tube gear is not generated by syrupiness, by mush, by mud. Is generated by clarity and by the ability of that audio gear to elicit hormonal response from your brain. There will be adrenaline, serotonin release, there will be major endocannabinoid release in the brain occurring, and that's what the tube sound at its ultimate can do for you. The ultimate solid state sound will do for you the exact opposite. It will keep you very much locked in your body, locked in your thoughts, and you will experience it in a purely intellectual way. So these are my advice. This is my advice for you, and for all of you who are in search of the sound you want to get. So if you hear, if an amplifier gets your interest, piques your curiosity, and you have read very good things about the reviewers, then I would really warmly suggest to look into the topology and the parts build quality of that product, and that will tell you towards which road will that amplifier be carrying you towards. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope this was very useful for everyone. My channel is dedicated to information like this. I'm going very deep into technicalities, but I use plain and simple language to explain them. My channel is not for electronics buffs, although if you're an electronics buff, you will tremendously benefit from it. It is for the audiophile who is in search of music. So thank you. Please like, subscribe, and check in my previous videos, which are just as exciting as this video was. Welcome to this channel. Thank you. Bye bye.